Hello. You should have a link to the Odyssey one-pager assignment, and I am going to walk you through this just so you completely understand the requirements. It's worth 20 summative reading points. This is part of you proving to me you understand the book and the elements in the book. So it's worth kind of a lot. That means it goes in the test and quiz grade, and it can significantly raise your grade depending on how well you did on the book 1 through 12 quiz. So I want to make sure you completely understand the requirements. So I'm going to walk you through this. The learning target is that you can prove what you understand about the Odyssey, including plot, characters, themes, connections, etc. And as it says, it's worth 20 summative points, and it's due on Monday the 15th. So that's this coming Monday. So you have today in class to work on it, and you'll have the weekend. You can do it on actual literal paper, or you can do it on your laptop. Some people are pretty good at designing things online, or you have programs that you can use on your laptop, Photoshop, etc., and you want to make it on there. That is totally fine. You have to include all 4 of the required elements. There's 4 required items, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you need to pick 3 of the optional items to include on your one-pager. That means there's 7 elements total. Okay, and this is called a one-pager because it's going to be one piece of paper, one sheet, one side, so just the front side of the sheet, and it's going to have lots of Odyssey information on it. So this will be nice to prove that you've read, and it'll also be a good review for you, I think. A lot of these things are things that are on the study guide for the test anyway, so if you have to think about them to do this project, I'm hoping that will help you. So you'll have 7 elements on your paper. It has to be on a plain sheet of paper, as I said, not notebook paper, so if you do it by hand, you need to get a regular sheet of computer printer paper. You also need to plan out your page so that you use up all of the white space. Okay, so it's 7 things, but maybe sketch out where you're going to put everything first, so that way it's not all crammed into the middle and you don't have any big chunks that are just empty. You want to make it nice and aesthetically pleasing by organizing your life that way. And finally, it has to be in color. So if you do it by hand, you need to use colored markers, colored pencils, whatever you choose. And if you do it by computer, you need to be able to do it in color and print it in color for Monday. So if you scroll down, you'll see the required elements. And I can show you an example. We didn't do these for the Odyssey last year, but I did have my students do them for To Kill a Mockingbird, and I think they found it very helpful. This is my To Kill a Mockingbird example. I can try to make this bigger. I don't want to make it that much bigger. There we go. Let's see if I can make it bigger this way. There we go. And I have this, sorry, I have this on my bulletin board if you want to take a look at it. It's right behind my desk. But this is what it'll look like. It's one page, and notice there's not a lot of white space. I have some images. I have lots of text. This will be the book that we start after next week, so that's fun. And all of these various items are options on the list. So. No, I have the title, To Kill a Mockingbird, and the author, Harper Lee, which is in pink, so you can't really see it in this picture. And not everything is facing the same direction. I wrote this way for a little bit because I thought that would look cool. And I wrote around this way. I had some empty space here that looked awkward, so I tried to add some things. And you can draw arrows, you can make squares, you can set it up however you want, but you want to use all of the available white space. So there's that. I should probably save this. Just put it on. Okay, so yours for the Odyssey, you need to include these 4 required elements. It has to have the title, the Odyssey, and the author of the epic, which would be Homer. And they need to be spelled correctly somewhere on your page. So you can put it in the middle. In my example, I put mine my title and author at the bottom. You can put yours anywhere on your page you want, but The Odyssey and Homer should be on there somewhere. The next required item is that you need to include all 4 components of an epic plot. So you need to come up with one example of each from the story, from the Odyssey. You need to depict an example of divine intervention. You need to depict a strange creature. You need to depict a large-scale event. And you need to depict treacherous weather, wherever those were in the Odyssey. So think, okay, which large-scale events happened? Meaning like more than just one man versus one man. We read about one just for today, for example. But figure out where you're going to put that on your page. And if it would help you to label them, please label them on your page as well. But you don't have to if you'll remember where they are. You need to include at least one key quote, a quote that you think really stands out as being memorable from the story. So this is something where you go back through your annotations and pick one of the things you annotated that you really liked. One key quote that really stands out to you about Odysseus. Perhaps it's up to you. But you'll include that somewhere on your story. Note, it should be from our version of the book. That means you should not just Google Odyssey quote and pick one that sounds good, because that is 9 times out of 10 not from our translation of the book. So you need to pick one from your text. Yes, it will require you to do 2 minutes worth of thinking, but you need to pick one from our book. And then this is important, on the back of your page, on the back of a one-pager, or on a separate sheet of paper, you need to explain why you chose this quote and label it number 1. That way I know why you picked it. And as I put at the bottom here, the back of your page is your chance to justify your work, to prove to me that you deserve these 20 points. So you need to explain neatly and in complete sentences. So don't just say like, number 1, sounds cool. Say, number 1, I chose this quote because blank, and explain why you think that's a key quote. So title and author, epic plot conventions, all 4, your key quote, and then finally you need to come up with a border that connects to the story or the characters in some significant way. And the border should go all the way around the page. This border can be images, or it can be words, or it can be a combination of the 2. On my To Kill a Mockingbird one, my border is a picket fence, because that'll be an important plot point in the book. And then the other edges of the border, so this is 1 edge out of 4. My other 3 edges are all of the names of all of their neighbors, and all the people that are important in their neighborhood, and they're all connected. And the fence is also in their neighborhood. So that's why I did that border. So mine is an image and text. You can do just words. You can do just one image over and over and over and over and over all the way around. It's totally up to you. But pick something that relates to the book, or relates to Odysseus, or relates to the Odyssey, and make your border in that way. Then on the back of your page, explain why you chose this border. Why did you do what you did? Because sometimes people will do like images, and I can tell what they are, but I can't tell why they picked them. So if on the back is your chance to explain yourself. And then finally, so all those are required. Then I need you to pick 3 optional items. So any of the 3 things from this list, and then again on the back or on your other piece of paper, you need to tell me which things you picked and why. So you'll have 3 of these, or not why, but tell me which things you picked and where they are on your page. So because sometimes I just can't find them, and I'll count people down and be like, you didn't have the required, things. I didn't find, your optional items, and they'll say, well, they're right here. Well, I didn't know that was what it was. So just briefly tell me where it is on your page once you find a place for it. But your options are, and again, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 8 options. You just need to do 3. You can include a thematic question that you think ties to the events of the story. On my example, I have a thematic question for To Kill a Mockingbird, and that's how do we stand up for what's right? That's one of the main themes of the book. And it's a difficult question. It's not just a yes or no, but it's a big idea sort of question. So if you have a big idea sort of question that you think relates to the Odyssey, you can include that. You can visually depict 3 items that seem to be important throughout the book. They can be non-physical items if you want, but any items that are relevant. You can do a word cloud of at least 5 words, words that relate to epic heroes, just in general. They could be the traits of an epic hero. They could be epic heroes that you've read about. They could be elements that Odysseus seems to show. Any 5 words that relate to epic heroes. You could potentially include a song lyric from any school-appropriate song that seems to tie to Odysseus' story somehow. That one's pretty wide open, and I think that tends to be sort of fun. You can choose... Oh, I didn't finish writing this one. You can choose one of the archetypes to depict on your page somewhere, either in words or in images. Which means, one of our wicked temptresses, our loyal servants, our, the long journey, any of those fun archetypes you can include. I would probably label it, but it's up to you. You can explain either in images or in words how the Odyssey ties to any modern day epic. Book or movie. So for example, one epic that is also a long journey is Lord of the Rings, as they're trying to get the ring all the way to Mordor. So you could draw, Odysseus talking to Frodo, if you wanted to. That would technically count. Don't use that example, but yeah, I mean, you can tie it to any other epic that you can. One optional item is you can include another key quote. So instead of just having one key quote, you have 2. So if you're trying to decide between a couple, oh man, you're lucky. You can use both, and it counts as one of your optional items. Or you can finally choose one of the other main characters, like Penelope or Telemachus, or any of the other main people we've talked about, and include them on your page somewhere. So again, any 3 of these. And then on the back, you'll label number 3 and tell me which 3 things you picked and where they are on your page. And then on Monday, you're going to hand in a hard copy of the one-pager, either printed or drawn out on paper, as well as your answers on the back or on an attached sheet for numbers 1, 2, and 3. And again, those 3 things you need are labeled. Well, that's 3, this is 2, and this is 1. This one, yep, right there. So that's your project, and you'll turn that in, and if you have all of the required elements, you should get a 20 out of 20. If it's not neat, or if you're missing elements, or if you do not follow directions, essentially, you will lose points on this. But I'm hoping that this will give you a chance to be a little bit creative, because you've got some options what to do and how to do it, and it'll also be really good review for your test next week. So if you have any questions, see me, but this is the general idea. And again, I have an example. You can come look at it if you want. I have some examples. We did this for just one book. We did this for book 16 as like an in-class activity last year, and it worked pretty well, but I thought that it would probably work better with the whole book. So that's what we're going to test out this semester. Thank you. And you can begin working on your one-pager for the rest of class until I'm finished with everybody's conferences.